A few years back, a story surfaced that raised serious questions about a certain actress on the verge of marrying into royalty. Someone claimed to have received private compromising material from a photographer based in Florida, showing her in highly intimate situations that didn't align with her public image as a modest, hardworking outsider. The source described it as something shocking, something that could rewrite everything we thought we knew. But here's the twist. When pressed for details, the name dropped was Meghan, the one about to become part of the royal empire. Imagine that, private material like this circulating just as her fairy tale story was taking off. What if this wasn't random at all? Piers Morgan, never one to shy away from controversy, brought this up in his no-holds-barred style. He recounted how everything seemed connected to exclusive private clubs like Soho House, their foundations, their networks, who gets access, and who controls the doors. Once you understand how these elite spaces work, he argued, certain alleged private photos or materials don't feel like accidents anymore. They start to look inevitable, like part of a deeper pattern. And get this, during one live segment, he asked the audience if anyone was still a fan of Meghan Markle. Barely a hand went up, one lone person, to scattered laughter. But wait, the real twist here? No one expected that moment to spark a complete reevaluation of her carefully crafted backstory. For years, Meghan Markle's narrative painted her as the relatable actress who hustled quietly, lived frugally, and earned every break through pure hard work. Far removed from the world of wealth and influence she later entered. She talked about budgeting, staying grounded, avoiding shortcuts. It was a story that made her seem different, admirable even. But then came whispers of private images from those Soho House circles that told a different tale. According to those claiming to have seen them, she looked completely at ease among powerful figures. No wide-eyed newcomer, no awkward outsider. Her comfort in those settings suggested she already knew the unspoken rules of elite life intimately. And here's the shocking twist. These images reportedly showed someone who had been navigating that world long before the public ever knew. Piers has been vocal about this contrast, pointing out how her charity efforts and public moves always seem tied back to those exclusive networks. Vague plans, high-profile connections, all very polished, but light on details. He even joked about her returning to acting, shooting new projects now, while questioning the authenticity of it all. You and I watched those interviews unfold, remember? The morning after one big reveal, the narrative shifted overnight. Viewers expected sharp commentary, but what emerged felt more calculated, more damaging to that polished image. But the biggest twist of all, if even a fraction of these connections and alleged materials hold truth, it challenges the entire arc we've been sold, and leaves us wondering what else might surface next in the Royal Empire saga. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. What do you think? Does it add up? Or is there more beneath the surface? This is where the real contradiction hits hard and becomes impossible to overlook. Think about it. The heart of the matter was never about what Meghan was doing, who she spent time with, or how she navigated her life. It was always about what was left unsaid. If her years before meeting Harry involved deep, comfortable access to highly exclusive circles, then framing herself as an outsider who stumbled into influence by pure chance starts to feel misleading, doesn't it? Soho House describes itself as a workspace for creative thinkers, a global community where members from creative industries collaborate in inspiring spaces. But narratives build trust with the public, and when parts of the story turn out to be incomplete, people can't help but wonder what else might have been carefully edited. Those alleged private images from elite settings didn't point to any wrongdoing. They simply questioned the authenticity of the relatable, grounded rise she presented. And once that authenticity comes under scrutiny, the entire polished image begins to crack in ways that are tough to fix. But here's the twist. If omission was the strategy all along, how much more of the royal empire story remains untold? To really grasp why these alleged images sparked such intense reactions, you have to understand what Soho House actually is. It's far more than a trendy spot or fashionable hangout. It's a tightly controlled world built on privacy, extreme exclusivity, and careful gatekeeping. Getting in isn't just about money or even fame. It demands sponsorship, approval, and real trust from someone already on the inside. The brand has a reputation for quietly turning away big names who might draw too much attention or drama. This strict culture makes Meghan Markle's reported comfort across multiple Soho House locations worldwide stand out even more. In Prince Harry's own words from his memoir, Soho House wasn't an occasional visit for her. It was like a second home. She kept belongings there, knew the team inside out, and moved effortlessly between spots in London, Toronto, New York, and elsewhere. That kind of deep familiarity points to real belonging, not just passing through. And belonging in a place like that? It usually means someone influential vouched for you. Once you accept that, the whole narrative shifts. Her ascent doesn't seem random anymore. It looks deliberately opened, step by step. Those alleged images didn't reveal scandal. They highlighted long-standing access. And in elite worlds, access is the ultimate power. But wait, the intriguing twist here. Every exclusive circle has its key gatekeepers, and one name keeps surfacing in this story. Let's dive deeper into that. In the Soho House network, one figure stands out repeatedly: Marcus Anderson. He wasn't just any staff member. He held a top role deciding who got into those private spaces and who stayed out. Observers have pointed out how Marcus appeared alongside Meghan consistently over the years, from Toronto to New York, London to Los Angeles. Not sporadically, but time and again across continents. For someone in a high-level position where time is everything, that kind of repeated proximity feels purposeful, doesn't it? Add in the widespread reports that Marcus played a key part in introducing Meghan to Prince Harry, arranging those early meetings in discreet settings, and suddenly the romantic story we've heard takes on a different layer. What was sold as pure fate starts to look more like carefully aligned connections, doors quietly opened, introductions managed behind the scenes. If Marcus truly bridged those worlds, then her path to the royal empire wasn't accidental. It was navigated with precision. And those alleged Soho House images? They stop looking like surprises and start resembling evidence of a well-established network that was always there, just not fully acknowledged. But here's the eye-opening twist. This web of elite access extends even further into invitation-only retreats and private gatherings far from the spotlight. Beyond the clubs lies another hidden layer of high society life: luxury yachts, secluded escapes, and exclusive events focused on real networking, not public attention. Power moves happen there, quietly and effectively. And in those circles, Meghan Markle's name has come up in various whispers and accounts over the years. One individual, Christopher Jones, who worked in that yacht world during overlapping periods, has shared claims about shared timelines and experiences. Of course, attending such events can simply mean professional connections or opportunities. Many in entertainment do it for visibility and introductions. But the real question isn't any one story. It's the recurring pattern around her pre-royal life that keeps raising eyebrows. When you connect the dots, from deep Soho House ties to consistent gatekeeper proximity to these offshore elite overlaps, the picture of her rise challenges the humble, outsider narrative entirely. Piers Morgan himself hammered this home, dismantling claims from that big interview, like the story of a private garden ceremony with the Archbishop days before the public wedding, which turned out to be legally impossible and later clarified as just personal vows. He called out the exaggerations that, in his view, aimed to undermine the monarchy. You remember how that interview unfolded, right? The morning after, the backlash was immediate, with fact checks pouring in. Viewers thought they were getting raw truth, but what emerged felt more strategic to many. And the ultimate twist? If these patterns of access, connections, and omissions hold even partial truth, it reframes the entire royal empire tale we've followed and makes you wonder, what other layers are waiting to emerge? What do you think? Is it all coincidence? Or is there a bigger design at play? This saga keeps unfolding in ways no one saw coming. So we pushed back with a clarification the very next day, laying out the facts clearly, but it changed nothing. The complaints flooded in anyway, and eventually the bosses pulled me aside and said, "Can't you just apologize to Meghan Markle?" I refused. Some images circulating online of her in elite circles turned out to be misidentified. Wrong person, wrong context, and that's worth noting because accuracy matters. But even when specific claims fell apart, the broader questions lingered. Why? Because the elite system itself is very real. Insiders, authors, and longtime observers have described for years how aspiring actresses often build connections through proximity to wealth, power, and influence. Meghan's well-documented comfort in those exclusive spaces kept the curiosity alive, no matter how many individual rumors were debunked. Patterns don't prove anything on their own, but when the same whispers echo across years, cities, and networks, they demand a closer look. Something in the official story still feels like it doesn't quite line up perfectly. And here's the twist. Standing firm against pressure became the real turning point, because giving in even once opens the door to endless demands. Piers Morgan made his choice crystal clear. He walked away rather than bend. He called it a matter of principle. Never bow to the mob. Never grovel. Never hand over an inch when you know you're in the right. The crowd cheered that decision, seeing it as a rare stand against what he described as extreme pressure from certain circles. But perhaps the most puzzling part of this whole saga wasn't the alleged broadcast of those Soho House images. It's what happened, or more accurately, what didn't happen afterward. Meghan Markle has earned a reputation as one of the most fiercely protective public figures when it comes to her image. She's taken newspapers to court, demanded retractions, filed official complaints against broadcasters, and pushed hard for corrections whenever she felt misrepresented. Silence has rarely been her approach. She's quick, decisive, and unafraid to fight back publicly. Yet, according to multiple accounts, after Piers supposedly showed those private images on live television, there was no swift statement, no denial from her team, no legal warning, no public pushback at all. For someone who moves fast to shut down challenges, that quiet stood out like a thunderclap. In media and PR worlds, silence rarely reads as indifference. It often gets interpreted as calculation. Public figures usually crush unfounded stories immediately to starve them of attention. The longer something lingers unanswered, the more it grows. And in this case, the absence of response didn't calm the speculation. It fueled it even more. But wait, here's the chilling twist. People started asking a far more uncomfortable question. Was the quiet deliberate because speaking up risked drawing even more eyes to something that couldn't easily be dismissed? Commentators began wondering aloud. If the images were completely fabricated, a strong, immediate denial could have ended the conversation overnight. But if there was any truth to them, challenging them head-on might invite deeper digs, wider sharing, or unwanted verification. In high-stakes image management, sometimes the safest move is to say nothing when engaging could make everything worse. That strategic possibility unsettled observers the most, because in that unanswered space, the focus shifted from debatable rumors to the undeniable parts, like long-standing access, consistent connections, and a rise that looked far more networked than accidental. To fully grasp why this moment carried such weight, you have to go back to the personal history between Piers Morgan and Meghan Markle. Way before the royal headlines, lawsuits, or global debates, the two actually met in person back in 2016 for what was described as a casual, friendly drink. Nothing more, just polite conversation over a glass or two. Piers later shared how the evening went well enough that he even helped arrange an introduction to some industry contacts. But soon after she began dating Prince Harry, all contact stopped abruptly. No replies, no acknowledgement, what he called being ghosted. That personal shift added fuel to his skepticism when her public narrative emerged as the humble outsider stepping into royalty by chance. From his perspective, the story didn't match the early connections he'd witnessed firsthand. And here's the final jaw-dropping twist in this chapter. That one casual encounter years ago set the stage for everything that followed, turning a simple meetup into the spark for one of the most enduring media feuds in modern royal empire history. How deep does this web really go? The next revelations might surprise us all. What do you believe is still hiding in plain sight? Keep listening, because the layers are only getting thicker. And that's exactly how many see her journey, a masterclass in adaptation and strategy. Piers Morgan has openly shared how that one friendly drink in 2016 felt promising, like the start of a real professional bond, maybe even mentorship. They talked for over an hour, and he genuinely believed a connection was building. But the very next night, everything changed. Meghan headed to Soho House, met Prince Harry for the first time, and from that moment on, she completely vanished from Piers's world. No follow-up message, no explanation, nothing. For most, Getting ghosted is just annoying, but for Piers, it became symbolic of something bigger, being dropped the instant someone with far greater influence appeared. As her relationship with Harry exploded into global headlines, that personal experience turned into deep skepticism, fueling years of sharp commentary. When the big Oprah interview aired, followed by his live on-air takedown and the massive backlash that led him to storm off set and eventually leave the show, the feud became personal and public. Reports even suggest Meghan herself lodged formal complaints against him. So when whispers spread about Piers allegedly showing those Soho House images on air, many didn't view it as a random jab. They saw a man convinced he'd been sidelined and professionally targeted, finally presenting what he believed was clear evidence that her wholesome, outsider image wasn't quite the full picture. But here's the intriguing twist. Critics argue this pattern of calculated moves and disposable connections started long before Harry ever entered the scene. Sources tracking Meghan's path closely often describe her as highly observant, quick to adapt, and undeniably strategic, skills honed as an actress reading rooms, studying people, and shifting to fit expectations. Those abilities, some say, extended far beyond the screen into real-life navigation. Take Marcus Anderson. In what some call her series of short-term alliances, he's the rare constant, the one described as truly indispensable. Without his influence opening doors at Soho House and beyond, many insist her trajectory to worldwide recognition, whether you call it fame or controversy, simply wouldn't have reached this level. He began as a waiter in London, climbed all the way to global membership director, and by the time he met Meghan in Canada during her early Suits days, he held real power over who entered those exclusive founding circles. We're talking invitations reserved for the most connected figures in each city, not just anyone got in. The idea that Marcus became her guide through these elite networks reframes everything. She didn't accidentally wander into power. She learned the layout, adjusted seamlessly from Hollywood sets to private clubs, and later to royal expectations. Some even suggest she closely observed Princess Diana's public style, emotional delivery, gestures, crowd connection, adapting those elements too. Fair or not, that perception paints her rise as practiced and prepared, not sudden or serendipitous. And that's precisely why those alleged Soho House images stirred such unease. They implied this preparation stretched back years, inside worlds she later portrayed as brand new discoveries. The images didn't suggest missteps. They hinted at a woman already fluent in power dynamics long before claiming wide-eyed surprise. For skeptics, it turned destiny into deliberate design. But wait, the deeper twist, every public figure balances two stories, the one shared openly and the one shaped quietly behind closed doors. Meghan's official narrative has always highlighted transformation, the independent outsider who found unexpected love, entered royalty, and bravely spoke out. Yet those alleged images introduced a parallel version, one rooted in early access, strategic relationships, and networks built far from public view. Neither story automatically cancels the other. She could have faced real challenges and worked tirelessly. But when one version gets amplified while key chapters are quietly omitted, an imbalance emerges, and imbalance naturally sparks doubt. What troubled observers most wasn't what the images supposedly revealed, but what they suggested had been carefully left out. Years of proximity to influence, social positioning in exclusive spaces, connections formed discreetly long before the fairy tale spotlight hit. The public often admires ambition. It's the selective editing, especially when it builds sympathy and trust, that proves harder to accept. Once that curtain lifts even slightly, it rarely drops back fully. People start revisiting timelines, linking introductions, questioning coincidences that suddenly look coordinated. This moment gained power not from outright scandal, but from quiet implication, that Meghan's ascent might have begun years earlier in unacknowledged elite circles, guided by figures like Marcus, rather than purely with that fateful Soho House meeting with Harry. Myths thrive on curated details. When overlooked pieces surface, the story doesn't collapse. It wobbles, inviting questions no team can fully silence. And here's the final, thought-provoking twist that changes everything. If this hidden prologue truly existed, what other unseen chapters shaped the royal empire saga we thought we knew? What else was edited out to keep the narrative clean and captivating? The real mystery isn't just what we've seen. It's what might still be waiting to emerge. Tell me, after connecting all these dots, does the official version still feel complete to you? Or has the wobble begun? This story isn't over. It's only getting more compelling.